I'm now going to introduce Sue Rickerby. Sue was appointed Director General of the Department of Science, Information Technology and Innovation in November 2013, bringing with her an extensive background in local government and private sector in Australia and New Zealand. Since Sue took up the role of Director General, she has been instrumental in progressing key across-government renewal and service delivery initiatives, including the one-stop shop, ICT renewal, introduction of cloud computing and email, and shared services reform. In addition, she has continued with reshaping the department to deliver improved service delivery to its customers. Before joining DSITI, Sue was the Deputy Director General of the Priority Projects Division at the Department of Premier and Cabinet. In this role, she was responsible for a number of whole-of-government and multi-agency projects, including the Queensland Plan, a 30-year vision for the state, the one-stop shop, and open data. Sue tells me that she has done everything from shared services, contact centres, and a stint in the wine industry. So if you would join me in welcoming Sue.
Thanks, Andrew, and welcome everyone. It's great to see such a large group. And I'd like to just open with some remarks before I get on to this, but I'm so pleased to see so many of you here because this is a really important thing to me personally, and I've been driving this pretty much since I got to the department and started to be listening to people across the industry and realising we needed to do something about it. But before I do that, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and the elders past and present, and I know this is quite a sacred site over here. And if you want to know more about that, there's some marvellous stuff in the State Library, which is just next door. A huge thing that's been happening to everybody, but certainly in government in the last few days, has been the cyclone. And I know the ICT industry is always very responsive at times like that. So for those of you who've been involved in the response and recovery effort, or will continue to do so, thank you. And I would definitely like to acknowledge if there's anyone from Telstra and Optus here. As you would know, you've only got to look at any media. The two things that drive people nuts is no power and no communication. And I'm led to understand there's been virtually no infrastructure damage. It's just a power issue, but such a significant issue for everyone. So I've just wanted to particularly mention those. Now, DSITI, we are still the Department of IT, so we've lost arts from our portfolio on the MOG, and I agreed with Mark, it was fantastic. I think we were all very, very pleased to see that the MOG was not great, so everyone could just get on. Our Minister is the Minister of Science and Innovation, and at my first meeting with her, she's absolutely fantastic, our Minister. She said, look, just because IT isn't in my title doesn't mean I'm not responsible for IT, but IT fits within innovation. And how good is that when the Minister sees that straight away and says that's where IT fits in? So we are the department, IT is in our department's name. Now she has two departments reporting to her, ourselves and the Department of Housing and Public Works. There is no question of merging those or joining them together. I've had a number of comments on that. Many ministers are in this situation, and some Directors General have to report to multiple ministers. I've only got the one, so I'm very happy. She's based over in 80 George Street, and in fact I'm going to move there next week. I'm currently in the exec building so that I can be a bit closer to her. But of course with the cyclone, it's meant that we really haven't had much opportunity to have any meaningful discussion about much other than the cyclone and g'day. I have got no policy direction that I can provide, and I know you'll all be busting for that. The direction we've been given from the Premier and our Minister, though, generally speaking, is unless policies and activity is against the current government's policy, we should be continuing. So I'll certainly be testing our policy positions in terms of ICT and digital and so on with our Minister when I've got the opportunity to do so, which I hope will be next week, but everyone's just been running for it, that's for sure. And also, I don't have any packages of work to to share with you today, because I know for many of you coming here, and we've certainly had that feedback, you expect that and you go away saying, oh, as usual, no packages of work. So as usual, no packages of work. But this is important stuff, engagement, which will hopefully lead to some of that or a better process. And for those of you who attended one of these briefings when I spoke last year, and I think I spoke pretty passionately about how frustrated I was, both with government and the industry in terms of how do we work better together. And I felt a lot of time was being wasted on both sides, and how could we fix that? And that's where this has been born. I've been personally involved in this and driving it. It did go into a bit of a hiatus. I had a bit of a health issue late last year, so I wasn't around for a little while, so it went into a bit of a hiatus. But as soon as I was back on deck, it's like, right, we're into it. And for those of Mark, and I really appreciated Mark's comments and his involvement in the forums. And I know I ran these 2 forums, and within minutes of getting back to my office, I got calls from the industry saying, we hear you talking to the industry and you're not talking to us. Why wasn't I invited? And it's like, oh, hang on a minute. Firstly, this was just the first round, and what we were trying to do was to test what Comma Brunton had come up with, and with a group, a sort of representative group of the industry that we could pull together quickly. And I was absolutely delighted when at the end of that first session, it was like, gee, we need to meet again. And virtually everybody said we're in, and I think just about everybody came back for a second round to try and shape this up, to bring it to you. And you definitely, I'm very, very keen to have you involved and hear your feedback. So this is, what I'm presenting to you today is not a fait accompli. I'm an absolute believer in the co-design process. As Adam said, we will be putting up the full report, obviously a copy of what Adam presented, but also the full report for you to look at. As research reports are, they're very detailed, but I'm all about open. There's nothing that that's going to embarrass any of us in there. It's useful stuff. So I commend you to have a look at it. Because when we get your feedback, please use the background information to inform your feedback. And Adam has only given you a snapshot because we limited his time today. So I'll just go into the presentation. I understand the clicker's not working, so we'll just be, thank you, I just sort of make a nod and something happens. So I'll be going over just the journey we've been taking, which I've kind of touched on, as has Mark. Just a reminder that we have engagement principles, and they've been around for ages, and I've just got to flash those up, and it might be something you want to give feedback on. Are they still relevant? Do we need to change them? Do we need to update them? When I read them, I thought, yeah, they're good. There's a lot of them, and I think sometimes with principles, you kind of forget them if there's lots of them. It's a bit like values. You just need enough so you can trip them off, and I was thinking the lift conversation. Looking at our engagement activities, what we consider we actually do now, and then their potential new ideas. Now, those ideas came out of the research, and they came out of the forums, and they are not a complete list, so dying to hear any other things you think should be in there. So it's quite short. I'm going to go through it at pace because I do want you to consider it in your own time, but I will just give you a bit of a snapshot, and I'll then run over what happens next and how you can get involved. But I'm very keen, and we'll be sending this out to everybody on our PIT list, which I understand several thousand. That's right, isn't it, Andrew? And those several thousand were also invited to take part in the research. So we tried to spread a broad brush, and I know Comma Brunton added in some things as well. So we tried to get as broad a brush as we possibly could with this. I'm not trying to corral it in any way. I understand the industry is made up of enormous players, tiny players, industry groups, and we've got to listen to all of them and understand how we can get a representative view. In my heart of hearts, I had this crazy idea, and I remember talking about it with Gartner, saying, wouldn't it be great if the industry spoke in one voice? Wouldn't that be fantastic? So that we could really hear and understand and dig down and address that. But the more I get involved, the more I realise that's extremely challenging with such a diverse industry, but we are trying our absolute best. And it occurred to me as I was sitting here, and I said to Andrew Spina, we haven't shared this with the Queensland Government CIOs. We had some of them along to our forums, but we need to do that, and I'll also be sharing it with the other DGs, because this is important. As more and more business decision making is made at that level that isn't just about IT, it's about problem solving, addressing business needs, it's made by the decision makers. So for any of you involved in the Innovation Hub, you will know that, because who was at the Innovation Hub? not really hardly any CIOs or technology people. They were the DGs, the direct reports, the business managers, the COOs, the people that make the decisions and run the business. So for them to have an understanding of the industry is really important, and they're very keen to do that. So that's what I'll be running over today. So I've kind of touched on this, and I'm hoping you can read this, but really our current areas of engagement, I've just quickly given you a bit of a snapshot, rolled them up, so they're not activities so much as areas, and there's a hell of a lot. When you think we do policy, the Queensland Government CIO, the last presentation when I spoke to you, I brought all the team along, so Andrew Mills looks after policy, he looks after assurance, he provides independent advice to DGs and ministers. We have the, obviously, Andrew Spina's area, which is the delivery arm out there to customers, our external customers, and also we have Dallas Stow's area, which is Strategic ICT, which is the mega category manager for ICT and runs the panels, the GITC, and so on. We have really different responsibilities. So sort of from policy through to delivery, we've got it all, and all the things in the middle. So there's a hell of a lot going on with us. So we had the pit briefing, which was what I did earlier last year, where I talked about why that I wanted to do this, and I would be commissioning some research and looking at a full engagement strategy. I've got a comms background. That is my background, and it's like, why on earth wouldn't we be doing this? Engaging in a more formal way and a more independent way, because I know many of you are frustrated. You come and see me and you talk to Dallas when you really should have been talking to Andrew Spina, or talk to Andrew Mills and you really needed to talk to Dallas, and so on. Everyone's going crazy, or talking to CIOs and the sort of stuff that Adam talked about. You know, we do move people around a lot in government, so you just get to know anybody, whether it's a CIO or someone in the QG CIO or a DG, and then they've gone to somewhere else. So very hard to build relationships, and I definitely get that. So we got Colmar Brunton, did the research, and then we had the two forums, and that was just saying, look, we've got all this information. How on earth are we going to go about engaging with you to co-design a plan? So that's when we had these two forums to say, what do you reckon? What should we do? So the first one really focused on looking at the information and saying, what's a co-design process that could work, and are the findings sort of, do they resonate with people? And then the second one was looking at, okay, let's pull that apart and come up with some things, and they'll be reflected in some of the activity I'll be showing you. So the next stage in the blue box are getting your responses back to the material. We'll put everything online and you can have a look at it and give us your feedback. And we'll also be wanting that, obviously, from the Queensland Government CIOs as well. Then we'll go back, we'll roll up your feedback, and then we'll come out with the next iteration, as it were, and get final feedback. So it is quite a process, but I think it's extremely important to go through a process. It would be very easy to do the research, sit back in George Street, think this is how we can do it, and then just get on with it. I'd far rather take the time to co-design it, and co-design means working with you. It doesn't mean us just coming up with it. So our forums were wonderfully frank. They were great sessions. It was only a small group of people, but gee, it was really busy, active, engaged. Everyone had something to say. It was terrific. And I'm absolutely looking forward to getting your feedback. And I'm kind of expecting an avalanche, and I don't mind. I can handle it. So these are the principles of engagement. Now, I'm not going to roll over them in detail because there's a lot. We'll put those up, but they've been around for a long time, and we put them into the ICT strategy as well. They were developed by the Commonwealth principles of engagement. They make a lot of sense when you read them, absolutely, but I'm happy to look at it. Do we need a smaller version of this? Do they still resonate? So it'll be something we'll be seeking some feedback on. So I'm not intending to lead you through them now, but it was useful for me to remember we do actually have principles of engagement. You know, and I thought, gee, I didn't even know that for a long time. So it's nice to have those, but are they useful principles of engagement? So we would certainly put these into the final strategy. Thank you. So let's look at what the research, what we've done with the research findings. So what you'll see at the top of these slides are the key the findings from Colmar Brunton. So there's inclusion and problem definition process, and on the left-hand side are some of the things we're doing now, just to give you a bit of an idea, and then the potential new ideas. Now, the things in blue you'll see are the things that we worked on at the forums. So very interested in testing those. They're very specific activities, but very interested in testing those and getting feedback as do they resonate with everyone? Are they doable? Should we have a go at them? So that's what the things in blue are. We tooled through the feedback we got as part of the Colmar Brunton to come up with some of this stuff. So I've tried to roll it up a little bit. So you'll see, I think a lot of the work that we all do is face-to-face. The meetings that you have, whether it's with DSITI people, whether it's with CIOs, whether it's people across government, extremely time-consuming, isn't it? And you can wait a long time to get into people's diaries. I know to get into my diary is horrendous, and I appreciate the people who patiently wait and then they get 30 minutes. It is a nightmare. But it is a big part, and I do believe it's such an important way of forming relationships, but that is a very, very important part of what we do. In discussing the problem definition, is often one of the most key ways. I've talked about the Innovation Hub ad nauseum. I'm very excited about this. It's a pilot. We've run 2. Thank you for anyone in the room who participated. If you didn't participate or didn't want to get involved, we would really like to look at running this again and hope we will do that. But it's a fantastic concept because it really is all about problem definition. And the first pilot was fantastic. Absolutely, but the second round, wow! I had DGs lobbying me. We had so many problems. They're big problems. That's what the Innovation Hub's designed to address. And it was all about please, could we get ours up? Please, we've put 3 in, could we get one of them up? And we can only do 4. So it's like, we'll do our best, but I loved it. I loved the fact that I loved going down to QUT and seeing DGs in the room, and there's senior people actively engaged. I love seeing the industry there. We had from tiny players to Google, it was really fantastic. It was the most exciting thing to be part of. So definitely we're wanting to see your thoughts on that. We've got some views on it. We're obviously doing a bit of a review of them, and are there other ways of doing it? But we certainly find that very effective. So some of the ideas down there, you like your pit briefings, but sometimes, could they be more strategic? So that's certainly something in the new ideas. Innovative problem-solving approaches, and we've done this with the Innovation Hub, in fact. Some of the problems coming in, when we looked at it, we thought, well, they don't really suit an Innovation Hub. They just actually suit an open innovation approach or a co-design process. So we've been trialling some of that with departments across government who have been very, very willing to engage in this. And how do we actually give some problem definition, even templates or processes, both for government to use and for yourself? But we know the one discussion I have with you is, could you get us in early and let us help you define the problem? So there's some thoughts. Very keen to hear what you think about them. Up the top there again, the things coming out of Colmar Brunton: develop opportunities to build relationships and encourage SMEs to partner together to provide solutions. I think we're going to have to see more and more of this. And we've seen this particularly in the Innovation Hub, where there have been many SMEs coming along, and when you actually hear them talking and presenting what they're wanting to do, it's like if we all just work together, or some of you work together, and in some cases we've asked for that. So how can we help that? How can we help the industry by doing that? I think that's really a strong way forward. So we've got some of the list of our current activities and some potential new ideas. Very keen to hear your thoughts about that. Understand the SMEs are just such a significant part of our industry. At the forums that we had to try and flesh this out a bit, I had a real aha moment when we saw about people not being paid or slow to pay, and Adam referenced that. So I talked to the people about it. I said, well, it'd be really helpful if we got paid, and is there an issue? And we immediately looked into it, and there was an issue. And when I brought it to the attention of the DG of that particular department, it actually showed there was a bit of a process issue, and it was immediately addressed. So things like that, please, SMEs, don't sit on them. Escalate them to us. and I'm very happy for them to be escalated to me, but usually there's no deliberate policy of any sort, of course, but if you're sitting there and thinking, what are they doing, escalate it through to Dallas's team and ultimately through to me if you're not satisfied. I will always make that phone call, and I think that was resolved, I think in a matter of hours once it was drawn to my attention. I took it very seriously, as did the DG. So that's some of the things there. I won't go through them, but they'll be available for you to look at, but just very keen to hear what you think about those. Now, there were more on the same topics. And again, I think the strategic projects, some of you will be aware of this, so they're big whole of government pieces of work. That's one thing that my department does. So the Government Wireless Network, which was for the emergency services people, police, fire and ambulance, cloud computing for across government, and of course 1 William Street. So there are lots of those sort of kind of initiatives that they sit within Dallas Star's portfolio, and we will always run those whole of government things. The blue thing there from our forums, establish small industry government think tanks. Sounds like a good idea. What would they look like? What would they be useful? How would we use them? So love to hear your thoughts on those. So you'll see some other opportunities there. Thank you. Less risk aversion and showing a genuine interest in innovation. Look, I love this, and I think my opening remarks about the Minister herself seeing IT being part of innovation speaks volumes. Look, I think many of us do. Many of us do. And are very keen when I talk to DGs. I mean, people want to be doing things differently. So the risk, I think, sometimes is from custom and practice more than anything, but we're absolutely open to innovate. We've seen how powerful it can be, how powerful things like apps can be. We can just do things in a different way. Some of the things we're doing with the one-stop shop is really showing the way for government about how they can engage with their customers in a really very different way. So listed some of our current activities to try and get over that. The DG Council is something that I chair. It's actually the DSITI Council, and that's really about any major IT activity that agencies are wanting to do, and that must come through the council. And we look at it and discuss it and make sure, is this the most innovative way of doing it? Is there someone else across government doing it? And so on. It's a group of DGs of both the large agencies, the central agencies, and a few others. And it's definitely not a tick and flick. There's some very, very active discussion. And that secretariat for that's run by the QG CIO, who provides advice and assurance of those things on top of that to us. So there are many questions always being asked. Why are we doing this like this? Is there a better way? And it's really exciting when a proposal comes along that is innovative. Everyone's ears prick up and get quite excited. And how could I get in? So we've got some potential new ideas, and you'll see there are 2 in blue from our forums. The top one I really want to talk about, that we have the SME participation policy. We brought that in. It's been in for well over a year as part of our revised ICT strategy. It's there for you in industry. It's there for you to come straight to government. And we are challenged by probably lack of industry coming forward with this. Now, that's my understanding of the situation, and we're very, very keen to get this used more widely. So that's something we're talking about there, the co-design. How can we work with SMEs to look at how do we actually get this participation rate higher? We think it's a terrific thing for the industry and for government. So that's one of the blue things we talked about. And promote the adoption of outcomes-based procurement. Now, the DG Council is really looking a lot at that. Outcome, when ICT things come out, what is the outcome we're looking for? So not just the solution, we're not interested in the solution, we're interested in the outcome it will achieve. So there's a definite move towards outcomes-based procurement right across government. And things like payment by outcomes, and there's all sorts of outcomes are very top of mind. So be assured this is something. And I guess how do you help us in co-designing how we do that a bit better? How do we get this on the board? So trying hard with a less risk aversion. Understand about the timeliness, and I know I crack the whip a bit in my own department when I see things going out within sufficient times, not just on ICT. Sometimes it's just wild enthusiasm, just could we get it out? But I know, I've been on the other side, I've been a consultant. I know about filling in tenders. I know waiting, and then you work day and night and through the night, and we've probably all done that and gone home, had a shower and changed clothes and gone back and presented or delivered our tender. So I know what goes into a tender. So firstly, how can we make tendering more efficient for everybody, but how do we take some of the pressure off? Now, there will always be urgent things. There will always be things that we need, that an emerging issue needs to be addressed and we need help on. But generally speaking, we need to be thinking about this. And sometimes I think we set ourselves, both sides in a sense, unreasonable deadlines, think, oh yeah, that's achievable, and just putting the tender document together takes a lot longer because of the nature of the beast, so that gives us less time. So we hear that absolutely loud and clear. So we certainly are trying to do some things around that, and I know Andrew Mills, who chairs the group of government CIOs, certainly talks to them about this. This is a key issue. We know it's a pain point. I know it's a pain point, and I nag as well, but we need to do more than just nagging. So there's some of the ideas. We'll be doing a review of the GITC framework, which Dallas's team will be leading, so we hope that will help as well. But we need to, one of the things I'd appreciate is feedback around these response times and living, breathing examples so that we can actually use them to talk about to our colleagues across government. Thank you. Transparent forward planning, look, a hoary chestnut, isn't it, for all of us? We would love that. I would love to be here rolling out, here's the schedule for the year right across government, and I think that there was a wild hope we could do that. We may get to that. I know we have tried in some pit briefings to bring agencies in with their forward programs of activity. It's something we'd like to work towards, and we understand the need. The ICT dashboard, which I hope you all look at, it's now in its second iteration, and that's run from the QGCIO. That will be going into a phase 3 of that, so that the dashboard should sort of show you what people are doing and what stages things are at, but the release 3 will be more interactive and have more information, and I know that the QGCIO will want to consult the industry on that. So very keen to try and address this, hear it loud and clear, keen to hear your thoughts, because there might be some pain points that we could easily address, or it might be some just new things we could do and new ways of doing things that we haven't thought of before. We need your feedback. So that's why I'm so keen on this engagement plan to be co-designed. Regular communication, absolutely. Now, we try and do our bit, and I know I spoke last time very passionately because we are awash with documents and strategies, whether it's on our website, whether it's on the agency's website. Everybody's got whether it's blueprints, whether it's strategies, whether it's forward plans, whatever, every agency has them and they're up there for you to look at. And you know, I was saying, please look at them, because it does tell you what the agencies are actually doing, what the challenges are that they're facing, what they're trying to work on, what are their priorities. So I urge you again, we are very transparent in that process, but it's there for you, it's really up to you to grab. But what else could we do? I think we need a communication strategy, so we think more about how we communicate more formally on a more regular basis, so some thoughts from you as to what that might look like. And people like yourself coming up and presenting at pits, talking about some of your successes or challenges or whatever. And we're very keen to get out in the regions. We're very aware that I'm just talking to people really from the southeast corner. And I know I get around the state a bit, and I've met some fantastic IT people, some really brilliant people outside of this southeast Queensland. So very keen to get out into the regions and have some round tables on what we could be doing more. So the next steps. In the next couple of days, you and everybody on our invitation list, all 3,000 odd of you, will be getting an email which will link you to my Prezzo, to Adam's Prezzo, to the research report, the forum report, so rolled up what were the outcomes of the forums that we had with industry to help shape what we were doing, a link to the Get Involved website, and that's where we'd like your input on giving us feedback on the whole thing. So please try and look at in a sequence, look at the steps that we've gone through to be taken on the journey as it were, and give us your feedback. Any feedback is useful, but feedback rather than like this, don't like that, some specific stuff. Please be frank and open, and we also don't mind if you've got a lot of feedback and you want to send a document rather than just answer our questions. Very keen, we're relying on you. I'm really putting that out to the end of March to allow people to have plenty of time to consider, and it might be that industry groups want to send a response from the industry groups as well as the individual members, and we'll get out into the regions and talk to the regions as well. Depending on how much feedback we get, who knows? I'm very optimistic. I'm a real glass half full person. I'd like to think you have lots of feedback because we're trying to design this with you. It might take us a few weeks to pull that together to say, okay, you said originally we thought, now you've said that's what we think. So we will come back with the results of that consultation, and that will feed, and we hope to do that by the end of April, depending on the amount of feedback. And we'll keep you up to date with how it's going, because we'll be sending reminders out, of course. And then from there, we'll flow the draft engagement plan for you to comment, for final comments. So we'll put that out, and it'll be far more fleshed out than what you've seen today for final comment. And if it all looks okay, then we'll actually start implementing it. So yes, I know it takes time, but I would hope this is a long-term engagement plan, and we would need to revise it every 12 to 18 months and just check in. But very keen to have feedback throughout the process. I don't want to just come up with something, send it out and say, here we are. This is a plan for us all to own, not just for me, not just for my department, not just for the Queensland Government, but for you. So please look at it, please take the time, please spread the word. I'm dead serious, we're dead serious about this. We're very keen to have your feedback. We've tried our best so far, but I know there'll be a gazillion ideas. Try and make them practical, but I'd love to hear some innovative ideas too. What could we do that's really different that we haven't thought of before? We look at what other governments and other organisations do with engagement. I have phone hookups with people in Hong Kong and Singapore and New Zealand. You know, I'm asking, what do you do? So when I see, oh, those people do things really well, what specifically works for you? What would work here? That's what I'm interested in. So, you know, more than happy, some other ideas of places, people we can go off and talk to, but be assured my department does that. It's part of our job to get out there and see what others are doing. So, you know, really keen if there's ideas that we don't know about, love to hear them. And of course, we talk a lot with Gartner about and getting best practice from them as well. So that's where we're at with the engagement. I hope you found that useful. And now we've got some questions, I think one question or two. I can't see from there. Two. We've got two questions coming through for you, and then we're going to move to a panel session with Mark, Adam and myself. So have a look and give us your feedback. We will be putting those results of all of them up a bit later, including your coffee and tea choice. So thank you very much, and I really look forward to hearing from you on this.